Hello and welcome to That Seems Unfortunate, the show where we talk about all the interesting events, gaming, and music news with heaps and piles of sarcasm. I'm Chris Vittorio and I'm here with Steven Bridenstine. How you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well. Thank you for
Doing
asking.
well.
Yep. So, to preface, we were supposed to have a guest on tonight,
Yeah, we were,
but
but
unfortunately, we were apparently not very important to him.
yes.
Bryce. Ahem.
Cough, cough.
But we make it work.
Nah, we're fine.
So, today's episode is going to be heavily centered around one thing that we don't talk about in the intro and haven't. Oh, we talked about it a little bit last week, and that is TV and television shows. Um, as guys who don't spend a lot of time watching TV, we don't normally have big conversations to have, but for this episode and maybe a few others in the future, we've got a few shows that we want to talk about. So we're gonna save the big show that we talked a little bit about last week for last, The Walking Dead, and I'm gonna open. Let's see, should I open with the good show or the bad show?
You should open with the bad show.
Okay, I'll open with the bad show. It's not the bad show, it's just a show that's bad currently, and I'm sad about it. And that show would be Scream Queens. Now, the premise of the show, especially the first season, was one that I would watch, or when I started watching it, I was like, so this is a show I'm not going to tell anyone about, because, like, I don't want people thinking negative of me by my choice of television. But in reality, it turned out to be like a really cool, really funny show. So if you haven't seen it, the premise is, well, the premise of the first season um, it was kind of like a parody of like slasher films and like serial killer mystery things, and also like sorority like horror movies, and how like cheesy and terrible and all the tropes and stereotypes of that those are. So it basically followed a sorority full of famous actresses and a few famous actors too. Like a lot of the cast was like relatively well known. They had Emma Roberts, Kiki Palmer, if you know her,
I do know
uh,
Kiki Palmer, actually.
Jamie Lee Curtis.
Really? Wait,
Yeah,
Jamie Lee Curtis. Jamie Lee Curtis.
the old lady from the yogurt commercials.
That doesn't tell me anything.
It's like Jane Lynch, but not.
I barely know who Jane Lynch is. You know, when you said Jamie Lee Curtis, I don't know why,
Did you
but I
think about
immediately
Jamie Lynn
thought of
Spears?
I did think about Jamie Lynn Spears.
I've made that joke when I talk to other people and I say Jamie Lee Curtis. I say like Jamie Lee Curtis Lynn Spears because I almost say that every time. But it's got like the first season had like Nick Jonas on it,
Oh wow.
and what's her name from Glee. I never watched Glee, so
I don't like Glee.
yeah, I never watched it. But she was Leah Michelle. That's her name. But it was a lot of like famous people, and it was just basically like a parody on sorority slasher films. It was really funny. It was really witty, well written. The story went by very well. I just loved it. It was like a really cool show that I watched like every week, and I was like super excited about watching it every week. So when it ended, I was like, that's a shame that it ended, but I'm glad it ended as it did. And in my head, I was like, I hope it never comes back. Because you know with shows like that, those are really good one and dones. Like you finish the season, you wrap up the mystery, don't come back to it. Like a horror movie. Like
Yeah.
any of the big horror slasher film sequels, like Halloween 2 and beyond, Nightmare on Elm Street 2 and beyond. Any of those like classic movies, all of the sequels pretty much sucked. Because you can't really do much else after you've done it once. But sure enough, I get to see the commercial that says Scream Queen Season 2, and I'm like, ah.
No.
um, so I figured I'd give it a try. I loved it. I love the writing in it so much. I figured they could at least salvage it for a second season. Instead of a sorority this time, they're in a hospital.
Oh.
A lot of the famous actresses and actors are back. They cut any of the no names and replace them with more famous people.
More famous people.
Um, I'm not gonna say who's missing because it might spoil if you want to go back and watch the first season, which I highly recommend. But this season has people such as Taylor Lautner and
Oh wow.
John Stamos and
Wait. It has John Stamos.
the John Stamos. Yeah, he's pretty great.
John Uncle Jesse.
Yeah, Uncle Jesse. He's like my favorite character in the show. And yeah, now instead of a sorority, it takes place in a hospital, where they cure diseases that have never been cured before, which is a weird premise to me. And it was kind of like the first red flag because, there's a lot of tropes and a lot of stereotypes you can play on for sorority slasher films that you can make a ton of jokes about. But how many weird, one-of-a-kind hospital slasher films do you know of?
Horror, like slasher films in a hospital, actually.
Yeah, do
You
those
know,
exist?
I've seen it
I'm sure they
used.
exist, but are they? Do
I,
they exist frequently?
no, they don't exist frequently.
Yeah,
Not
so
by any means.
that was the big red flag. There was not a
No.
lot to play off of in a hospital. And sure enough, um, it's exactly what went down. The writing is hit and miss, and when it misses horribly. Um, it seems like they've given up on any idea of a storyline.
It crit fails.
Um, yeah, I could go on, and I have gone on and on with people, but I think it's better if you just forget this season existed, like I'm forgetting as we speak.
What season? What are you talking about?
Yeah, exactly. Uh, no, but hopefully it redeems itself. It's got hope. Not a lot of hope, but it will never truly
A little bit.
uh stay on par with season one, and it probably season two should have never existed. But I'm staying optimistic, even if I've hated what I've seen so far. John Stamos is still hilarious, and so is Taylor Lautner. So
See, you know what? I only knew Taylor Lautner from two things, one of which I never even watched.
Shark Boy.
See, I remember Shark Boy and Lava Girl, and that was great, and it was funny, and I loved it. And then he did Twilight,
Yeah, yeah.
and I'm sorry.
Hey, he had to make some money somehow.
He did, and I mean, it could have been worse than what it was, but like, like Taylor Lautner, you grew up to be like this dude with like 8-pack abs,
Yep.
and you want to do a paranormal romance movie.
At least he wasn't shiny.
He was not shiny. That's very true.
It's true.
Also, hang on. Let me tell this story. Back years ago when I had this girlfriend, she forced me to go see Twilight Breaking Dawn Part 1 with her family. I can tell you that within the first 15 minutes of that movie, Taylor Lautner ripped his shirt off.
Just once.
Well, just once because he turned into a wolf. And
Oh,
he
yeah,
was
yeah.
basically shirtless throughout the rest of the movie.
Yeah, can't rip your shirt off as a wolf as well. If he could, he would.
He
He'd
probably
find a way.
would. But, I mean, Taylor Lautner, like, he's not a bad actor by any means.
No.
He's still really good.
Yeah.
It's just that one role kind of killed half of his audience.
Well, I mean, everyone has things from their past, especially if you're like a Hollywood actor that you're not proud of. Taylor Lautner's still, from what I've heard, good person. He's pretty
Wait,
funny.
have you heard?
I don't know.
Like, oh my god, Robert Pattinson, who played Edward in the movie. You know,
Isn't he awful? Like an awful person in real life?
I don't know anything about that, but I know he did say he absolutely hated doing Twilight.
Oh, really?
Like he
I'm sure they
didn't
all
like
did.
it. He was not a fan of it.
I'm
He
sure
was
they
just
all
like,
hated it.
they're paying me.
Yeah. It was such good money, though. Like, yeah, you really couldn't pass it up. But, like, the
Like,
best example...
there's a picture of him in a Christmas sweater on the internet.
Yeah.
Like,
Okay.
I want you to picture that shiny vampire
In a Christmas sweater?
in a Christmas sweater.
That's what I do. That's how I
hilarious.
beat my stage fright. I just picture the whole audience in Christmas sweaters.
Christmas sweaters.
It works a lot better. But what was I saying? Oh, the best example is Mark Wahlberg. I'm sure Mark Wahlberg wishes he can make some kind of ray gun that zaps Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch out of everyone's memory. But he can't, and now he's got to live with it. I mean, I think Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch is a much better legacy than Twilight, but
Yeah, exactly.
still,
It's like, hey, what's wrong with Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch?
there's so much wrong. there's nothing wrong with it, but there's a lot wrong with it. At the same
Like it
time.
shouldn't exist, but it does.
It shouldn't, and I'm so glad it does, though.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
that guilty pleasure we all have.
Do you realize that this like upcoming generation, and maybe even some people now, are never like they're just gonna remember Mark Wahlberg as the actor,
Yeah, they are, and
And
they're never
never
gonna
the-
remember Marky Mark.
never the '90s awful rapper.
Yeah.
That's such a shame.
I mean, to be fair, his acting is much better than his rapping, though.
I mean, yeah, Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Uh, but yeah,
exactly.
moving on to the good TV show.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to limit what I say about this because I could talk about this show for 6 years. We could do a whole episode just surrounded about how much I love the show.
We could have a whole
Um,
season.
yeah, we could do 6 weeks worth of episodes. I want to like have a TV watch club of this show where we just talk about it all the time. And that show is the show Lucifer, which comes on Mondays at some time. I don't know what time because I watch it the day
That one
after on Hulu.
time.
Yeah, it comes on Monday nights on Fox if you watch actual TV and don't just wait for it to come out on Hulu like I do. Um, but the show follows the devil, as the name would imply, the man downstairs himself, uh,
Yeah.
who leaves hell to spend some quality time on Earth because he thought it looked fun. He got bored with hell, so he was like, "I'm gonna try out this place. Seems pretty cool." Um, and so he like becomes this nightclub owner, and he's like living large, uh, and then one thing leads to another. He becomes a detective because when you think about it, what does the devil do in hell? He just punishes bad people that do bad things. And what does the detective do? Finds bad people and then punishes them for doing their bad things. So it's like a perfect connection when you really think about it. Um,
That's crazy. I never thought
yeah,
about it like that. See,
yeah.
I've never watched the show, and now you're making me sad that I've never watched the show because it seems pretty
You
good. And I mean,
find a way to watch it. I think
like here's the
season
thing. What season?
season one might be on Hulu. If still,
Okay.
if it is, watch it. If get Hulu just to watch it. If you
Because
find a way to watch season one of Lucifer because it's really good, and season two is even better.
like I saw like trailers for it, I saw like those little advertisements for Lucifer, and they portrayed him to be really funny, right?
Yeah,
They just portrayed him to be hilarious,
yeah.
and I'm like, I want to watch this show just to see how many jokes he can make.
Tom Ellis, the actor that plays Lucifer, is an incredible actor. I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything before, but now I want to like go through and see him in all the stuff he's been in because he is
Yeah,
amazing. That was part of the reason why I started watching the show in the first place. The plot didn't necessarily grab me; it got me kind of interested, but watching Tom Ellis act in the trailers was like, all right, I think I need to check this show out. Um, and like, I was talking to Chris about this before we started recording. The big fear with shows centered around religion is that it's usually one extreme or the other, where it's either super lame and like really just like some of the better examples of that would be I think there was a show that followed like the Bible recently on like NBC or something. Some people
what?
may have enjoyed it, but I watched it and it seemed really slow and really boring. It followed the Bible pretty well. It was pretty historically accurate and biblically accurate, but it was really, really boring, and I could not keep up with it.
Was it like a
Um,
documentary?
no, it was like you ever see the Ten Commandments, that really crappy movie that they play at like Easter time or something, or
No.
Christmas time during one of the holidays. It's like a 3-hour movie about the Ten Commandments or about some series of biblical events. Everyone loves it. It's like the Christians' version of like A Nightmare Before Christmas or It's a Wonderful Life. It's just one
Oh
of
my
those things
god.
that you watch when it comes on. Um, but I've always really disliked it because it's as accurate as it is and as well as it's portrayed. Um, it's boring.
See,
um,
if we're talking biblical, the only things I've seen anything close to that, like there's a movie called Jesus that I
yeah,
have like on a VHS tape somewhere here in my house. There's the Passion of the Christ movie that I've seen at least 3 billion times since elementary school.
yeah.
And and that one movie that was totally animated about Moses.
Prince of Egypt. Was it Prince of Egypt? I think that's what
Yes,
it was
Prince of
called.
Egypt.
Yeah,
That's what I'm thinking of.
I've
That
seen
one
that
and the
movie.
Jacob one, but I saw the Moses one a lot more.
Seen that movie a countless number of times. That was actually a really good movie for what it was trying to do.
Yeah,
Um,
and like other than that, like on TV, the only things I've seen portraying religion are the religion channel that I happen to pass by on my way to watch cartoons. And when I was watching the History Channel, they kind of were trying to like bring together the Bible and now. and see what was fitting up and if we're all gonna die.
Oh yeah, Discovery Channel or History Channel is very good at doing that. Not Discovery. That's a completely different channel. But yeah, History Channel is very good at
That
doing
is a
that.
different channel.
Half of the History Channel stuff, it's either something about Hitler, something about us dying in a horrific way, or Pawn Stars.
Or Pawn Stars,
Yeah,
which is
that's
a
it.
good show.
Yeah.
It's a good show.
Um, but yeah, the other extreme of most religious stuff is it's like super just off base, like on what it's covering, and it's like
Yeah.
why even pick the medium of a specific religion if you weren't going to use it for anything? You're just
Yeah.
using the name and then not using anything else. Like I can't think of any great examples of that, but I know that it's always a fear whenever you see something about any religion, let alone like Christianity. Um, but yeah, the only two examples of it not being either of those that I've ever seen are that Prince of Egypt, because it was great for kids and still like wasn't too inaccurate and also
Great
kind of
for adults.
exciting, especially for its audience of children's animated movie. And then Passion of the Christ, which was like just a good movie as a movie, but it still like had a good message and all that kind of stuff. But
Yeah.
Lucifer is now the third thing that fits that as well, which is a unique thing because this one has nothing to do with the good characters in the Bible. It's about the worst character in the Bible, Satan
The literal
himself.
worst.
Yeah. Um, but that was my fear kind of going into the show, was that it would be one of those things. And it really surprised me when it wasn't, because like it was really funny and it was really cool and it was exciting and it was unique. There was good drama, good everything. Um, but on top of that, when you really thought about it, um, and this was like the thing for the first few weeks, was of course like Christian groups are outraged that the show existed and that they were like trying to make all these connections to how the show was wrong and all that. But when you really thought about it, um, it wasn't wrong in any of the things it was saying, and those complaints from those groups kind of like died down really quickly because I think even they realized they had no ground to stand on. Um, because when you think about it, like the character of Lucifer is like really charismatic and he's really funny and he's like just a great character and everyone loves him. Um, which on the surface everyone goes, "Ah, oh, loving the devil, that's so awful," but that's a thing. That's what happens. Isn't the devil like the most appealing thing? I feel like it says that somewhere in the Bible that like the
It
devil,
does.
if you were to see him, would be like your best friend and like the coolest guy because that's just,
Yeah,
I mean,
actually.
that's what he is. Like you love him because he's the devil. It's like I don't know. There's a lot more I could say. Like
You ever heard of
probably
the Devil's Game?
yeah. Yeah.
Okay, like they say that during the Devil's Game, if you like do the riddle thing with him, like he'll take the form of like the most appealing thing to you, period.
Yeah. And I
Like
mean,
doesn't matter what
it's
it is. It could be your best friend, it could be this girl you like, could be I don't know, some inanimate vase, but it's gonna have eyes.
yeah. So it's like it does both. It's like really charismatic, but it's not like horribly blasphemous is the best word I can come up with. So I'm gonna keep using
Yeah.
it. Um, but with season two specifically, it's really like just come together as one of the most like well organized and like well structured shows that I've ever watched in my life. Like the characters are all like wonderfully like delivered. They're all really well put together and each week is something new, but it stays to a storyline and it like makes you want to follow a specific story, but when it cuts from that story, you don't feel like you're missing out. Like there are shows that have really great main stories, but then the side stories are all boring and you kind of wish they didn't exist. But with this show, like you even love the side stories. Like it'll cut away from the main action and you're like, "Oh man, what a shame, but at least this is still cool to watch. I'd like to see where this goes too." Um just everything about it, it's so good. I don't want to like spoil anything again. Uh
Again.
but I can't recommend this show enough. Like regardless of what you care about, what you believe, what you want in television, it's got it all for everybody. It is like
Just everything.
perfect TV. Like I am gonna start holding shows that I watch from now on to the standard of Lucifer, and see if they can compare because I haven't seen TV this good before. It's so good.
So good.
Yeah, it's amazing.
Well, I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna push it to the thing that you and I have both been waiting for, and it's basically going to be our first disagreement on this podcast.
The true hype point of this episode, the thing everyone's
True high
been
point.
waiting for forever.
Yeah. Because I know how you feel, you know how I feel, and I'm about to defend a few of my friends on this one, and they're gonna hate you.
Yeah, I'm gonna let you open with the positives you see in it because I've been talking a lot. So I'm gonna let you talk for a while.
All right, I
What of
don't. I'm
course
not
we're
gonna have a
talking
lot to
about
say,
is The
truthfully,
Walking
but
Dead,
yeah, we're gonna talk about The Walking Dead again, but
season
this time
7.
more in depth and about the this new season as a whole. Now, to be fair, I kind of jumped on the bandwagon after I guess the season 6 finale because, well, like I was getting into the video games, right? And I'm like, well, you know what? Let me give the show a shot. It doesn't look so bad. It looks okay. So I kind of watch through the 6 seasons, and I get up to that point. I'm like, okay, I gotta know who he killed. Well, now we know who he killed. He killed two of our friends.
Yeah,
Now,
spoilers are coming ahead. If you haven't seen the show and you still for some reason plan on seeing it, it's gonna get spoiled. Good luck.
yeah, sorry, but so yeah, Glenn and Abraham got the bat, and Negan's an asshole. But here's what I see about the show. They also kidnapped Daryl. Now, there's a couple different things that I think are going to happen, and I'm really excited about it. Because we already know that since Glenn's death, Maggie, who is pregnant with Glenn's child, is now on the war path, and she's not letting go of it. Everyone else, though very hesitant to fight this new found enemy, they're going to help her no matter what, because I mean, they're going to avenge the death of their friend. Now, Daryl. Daryl is where I see some sort of a focal point here, because he was kidnapped, and if you know anything about Daryl from watching the show, he's kind of a loner. He's kind of an outcast from everybody else, but he's reliable. I'm thinking, considering this is a group he can actually fit into due to his personality, maybe he'll find that comfort in Negan's group. Now, am I saying he's going to betray his own group? No, I'm not saying that. What I am saying is that he may abandon the group. Hopefully not, we can pray not. Or he can use it to some sort of strategic advantage. Who knows? This is all speculation. I look forward to seeing how they play this out. As for Rick, he's losing his mental state. He's losing his mind, especially with all this flack that's hitting his son Carl. He almost had to chop off his own son's left arm from the elbow down in the season premiere episode. Now, I don't know how long Rick's going to last. And by proxy, I don't know how long the show is going to last. Because I feel like once they kill off Rick, the show is going to end. Unless
Wouldn't that be
Carl's
nice?
alive, but
Wouldn't
I
that be
don't
nice?
think he's going to be. What was that?
So wouldn't that be nice?
Oh, kill yourself. No. But no. I feel like at some point, I don't know if it's going to be in this season or in like 8 seasons from now. I don't know. But I feel like at some point, Carl is going to die or get kidnapped or something happen to him, which is going to make Rick lose it, get reckless, and get killed. Now, if that happens, maybe they can salvage the show for one more season following. If Carl's still alive. Carl, if he's not, maybe Daryl if he's still alive. But all I know is Rick has maintained the center of interest for the show. And I want to see how it plays out with him.
All right. Well, now it's time for me to dissect why exactly this show's awful.
And let me interrupt you for a minute. I'm not saying that everything about the show is great. It's going to have its flaws like every show.
Oh, of course.
So,
Well, yeah, and to the people that do actually like the show, the huge numbers, you're not in the wrong for liking the show. It's not like a show that's objectively bad to where, like, you're stupid for watching it. If you're watching it and you've enjoyed it, keep enjoying it. But, I've got very good reasons as to why I don't think it's a good show. For starters, this past season premiere really kind of pointed it out even more to me, is that the show is only capable of 3 plot points ever. Like, in the 7 seasons it's been around, there's only been 3 real plot points. It's either A, Rick and or Daryl do something stupid out of anger and it gets somebody in trouble that isn't them for whatever reason. You would think it'd be the people that did it, but nope, someone else in the group always gets it. Or B, Carl does something stupid because he's a child, and again, someone else pays for it, not Carl. You would think, well, Carl's paid a few times, but not as dearly as some of the other people
I
that
mean, he
have
did
paid.
lose his eye.
Yeah, he lost an eye, almost lost an arm, got shot early in
Yeah.
the show. I mean, he's taken a beating, but good. Um, or point three, random bad guy is a bad guy for no good reason, and he starts beating people down, and they gotta fight him. Which is now the second time, maybe even the third this has happened. The best other example, other than Negan, would be the governor. Two people that they've just happened to stumble across that happen to be horrible, evil tyrants for no good reason. Just obvious bad guys. And it bothers me because there's no character to these bad guys. Like, the governor kind of had character early, because wasn't the whole big reason that the governor got angry at the group was because he had his zombie daughter in like a place in his threshold or something, and
Yeah.
Michonne killed his zombie daughter and he freaked out, and that's why he was terrorizing the group. That was
Actually, no.
oh well,
Well,
didn't
the reason
Michonne
he was
kill his zombie daughter?
terrorizing the group is because he's a terrible person. In fact, when a
Exactly.
helicopter crashed,
How is that a good plot point?
but
Just
no,
he's
after a
attacking them
helicopter
because he's
crash, he
bad.
actually killed these soldiers for their stuff.
Well, I mean, there's some salvaging in that. Like, you can get their stuff. But like,
Yes, but
why is he
did you have to
attacking Rick's
kill them?
group? Why is he attacking Rick's group? They don't even have stuff.
Yeah, they do.
Not
No, they
really.
do.
Not
They
near as
did.
much
They have
stuff
like
as a lot of other
guns.
groups.
They had guns and food.
But the zombie daughter thing was a decent character trait to the
Yes,
governor, and I was kind of happy about that.
that did happen,
It
and that
didn't
was a
last very
plot
long.
point.
It didn't last very long, but it was
No,
okay. But now with Negan, there's even less to care about with him. Like, what happened? Did Negan just stumble across the group and go, I don't like you guys, let's kill you. And so he just
not
started killing
really.
people? Like, what did they do to Negan?
Actually, there is a thing that happened there. Um, so basically, I'm gonna try to shorten this as much as I can. But Daryl ran into some of Negan's crew, and Negan was a totally unknown quantity at this point. One of their people got killed while they were scavenging. They took Daryl's bike and crossbow. Then Rick's group, hearing about this, decided to go out, find these people, and kill these people for stealing their stuff. Then Negan's people tried to kill them for trying to kill their people, and they got blown up with a rocket launcher. And then Negan caught up with them, and now two of them are dead.
So,
So basically, it was a snowball effect. This happened here, so then this would happen, and then this would happen, and then this would happen.
they're just fighting to fight. There's no
They're fighting
substance
over
to it.
control and supplies,
There's no
mainly.
substance to it. Like with the governor, there was little substance, but at least there was substance of like the two just genuinely pissed each other off between Rick and the governor back and forth. Like
Yeah.
there was just a general like growing like emotional anger between them, and that was cool. But Negan's just there because his people were dicks, and so Rick's group was dicks, and now they're just having a slap fight.
Yeah, pretty much.
And
That is
that
what's
bothers
happening here.
me. That feels like such a horrible plot point to me. Like, there's gonna be multiple seasons probably of this because there are multiple seasons of the governor.
Yeah.
And
Well, no, I don't think they're gonna drag this out for more than a season.
I think
If
they're
if
gonna
you
drag
ask
Negan
me,
out if they're following even slightly like the comic books. And Negan was a problem in the comic books for a long time.
was he? Was he
Yeah,
really?
yeah.
See, I never got around to reading the comics, and I wanted to. But anyway, like, they can drag Negan out, but I don't think they're gonna drag this prisoner thing out. You know?
Well, with Daryl, I think Daryl's gonna find his way. He's gonna make
Either he's
something
gonna
happen.
find a way out, or he's gonna like
He's
make
certainly not gonna
nice.
die. Don't expect him to die. If he dies, the show is either genius or stupid, and it'll take a few weeks for people to figure out which. But
Kind of like Glenn, huh?
no, not like Glenn. If they kill both in the same season, then it becomes a problem. Killing one's
Yeah, then
fine.
it becomes an absolute problem.
I actually think how they handled Glenn was terrible. I think they ended it the best way possible.
Yeah.
If not kind of lazy. Um,
I mean,
but
they just followed the comics on that one.
yeah, I hate the fact that they I don't know. They tried to bait and switch, but after you've almost killed Glenn 2 times, the bait and switch loses its value by a lot. Because they were like,
Yeah.
are we going to kill Glenn? Are we not? Do we follow the comics? And then at first they're like, nah, we kill Abraham with the bat. It's okay. And then they went, no, but just kidding. He actually gets the bat the same way the comic books anyway. Haha. And again,
Surprise!
and
Plot,
again, it happened
plot twist!
because Daryl got angry and did something stupid, and Glenn paid, not Daryl, Glenn. It's
Yeah.
it's so
Yeah, he did.
frustrating, and it's a big reason why I gave up on the show is because they hammer home the wrong ideas. Like, there's so many good things that the show had, but they don't follow any of them. Two of my favorite plot points, and the one ended okay. The other one didn't. But my favorite plot points before I stopped watching were the cannibals that they dealt with,
Okay.
and the storyline of Eugene having the cure. That
That
ended
was
up
cool.
being false. I liked that, and I liked how it ended. How it ended, it like ended fine. That one was okay. I was happy with the storyline. I'm happy it happened.
Yeah.
I moved on. But the cannibals, that was something really good. Like, the
Yeah, they
cannibals
did
were
have
the
a good
only
thing going.
villains that had substance, which is hilarious that that's where the show is.
They
The
had a
cannibals,
they had a moral reason for their evil deeds.
yeah, the cannibals had a reason why they were attacking the group. Wanted to eat them. Fair game. They did like really cool things in taking that one guy and like eating his leg and then
Yeah,
sending him
Bob.
back as like a message. Like, that was really cool. There was like all this like great stuff surrounding the cannibals, and then there was even the point where most of the group went out to scavenge, and then the cannibals came at that exact time and like terrorized Carl and the baby and all that. And it was like this really great storyline, and then immediately after that, the group just busts back in, kills them all, and it's over.
Yeah, like here's what I think should have been done with that. I don't think they should have killed the cannibals like that
I think the cannibals
because
could have lasted a whole season and made a great season.
they could have, and that's the thing. Because remember the leader, he was like, "I swear I won't do it again." It would have been cool if they kind of like turned that. They let him go, they go back to their old ways, and they start chasing him down. That could have made for an okay season.
Yeah,
But no, Rick had to go all insane Rick and beat the leader to death with a machete.
yeah, and it was just like it felt like they were onto something and then said, but let's not, and then just cut it out completely, and
Yeah,
that's so bothersome to me. Um, my favorite things in the show as a whole were all early in the show, like anything with Shane. I think the Shane arc of the show was like some of the best TV ever.
I wish
I
they didn't
think
have to kill Shane. I'm
I'm
serious.
I'm actually glad they did when they did. I think that was perfect because they had a great storyline, they ran it to its conclusion, and then they ended it great when it ran out of steam. Now it seems
Yeah,
like they're either ending things while they're happening or they just let it run out of steam and don't get rid of it. Like, it just
yeah.
keeps going and going, and it's like, all right, we could have ended this like weeks ago.
See, here's
Um,
what I think they could have done with Shane. What they did was absolutely fine, and it wrapped it up really well. You see the two start drifting apart until it comes to that ultimatum: either I'm gonna kill you, or you're gonna kill me.
yeah, that was awesome.
That was a very good conclusion. But what I think would have worked as well is if somehow they resolved their differences, rebuilt the friendship, and then one of them dies horribly.
Um, that might have taken away too much. I think it would have made it unnecessarily emotional, which is the show is great at doing that now.
Yeah. It also might have taken too long.
Hmm. Yeah, it would have made the story run out of steam. It would have made whoever died, like Shane, probably still would have died. Would have made his death less impactful, while
Yeah.
Rick killing him made it way more impactful. I think how they handled it was the best way you could have handled it. And the Shane story also highlights what I think is the biggest problem with the show, and that is there is no struggle with Rick anymore. There's no power struggle. Rick is a dictator.
Yeah, he is.
He's been a dictator in the group since Shane died. There's
Like
been no
since
one.
season two,
Yeah,
actually, even
there's
when Shane
been
was alive.
there's been no one that's been able to even come close to Rick's level of leadership, and it's made him a boring, stale character, and everyone else boring, stale characters below him. Like,
Yeah.
it's really stalled out the show. So I theory crafted what would be the best route for the show to take, and I highly, highly doubt it happens. But if it does, wow, it would make the show good again. If Rick starts to go even more and more crazy, which he's been going crazy
Yeah.
since what's her name, his wife died.
Yeah,
Um,
Lori.
yeah,
Ugh,
since Lori died, he's been
hated
on
her.
this downward spiral. Yeah, I'm glad she died too. But he's
She
been
was
on this
terrible.
infinite downward spiral that seemed to have gotten stale and has ran out of steam. But what would be great is if he goes so far into this downward spiral that the group turns on him and by turning on him, need to find a way to get rid of him. And the only way that they end up solving the getting rid of Rick problem is for Carl to step up and either dethrone or straight up kill Rick. If Carl does it.
See, that would, like, I can see Carl dethroning Rick. I can't see him killing his own father.
I I mean, I think that would make a great storyline. And then on
It would
top
make
of
a great
that,
storyline,
if
but
Carl tries to step up into this new leadership of the group, there could be moments of that for a while, and then there can also be a power struggle. There's infinite amount of power struggles you can have with Carl. Pick Daryl. Daryl has pretty significantly been the second in command the whole time. So if
yeah,
Daryl sees his kid take over the group, he could start getting mad that it's Carl in charge now and not him. So then you have this great problem between a power struggle of Carl and Daryl. And that's another good few weeks of show that would make for great storyline. And
that would
suddenly you have this
actually.
fresh idea, you have new character developments, you have a new story, you have just a good show again. But that will never
That's
happen.
no, 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 no. You know what? That's not a bad idea. And in fact, though I find it a little weird, it would be totally cool that my bad to see like a power struggle between Carl and Daryl. Because I
Exactly.
mean, Carl's the son of the former dictator. Daryl's the second in command of the former dictator. So you see them vying for control, and that would totally split the audience of The Walking Dead, and that would bring in this whole new idea for the show. And
Yep.
I think that's great.
It gets a
But
new
one thing I
angle.
can't see at all is either one of them killing Rick unless it's in self-defense.
That could be what could happen. Or it
Yeah,
could
and if
even
that
be
happens, I'll be okay with that. But
it,
like if Carl just outright kills Rick, I'm not gonna accept that.
I could see it if he goes crazy enough, like it would be reasonable, but I see where you're coming from. And it could go something like there's a huge like fallout between Carl and Rick. Rick gets angry, goes to walk off, and as he's off on his own, he dies. That could be just as reasonable. It would
I don't think that would fit Rick very well. Like, see, through the show, these characters have developed their own personalities and I guess modus operandi. And Rick's like he's known for like Glenn surviving the impossible, you know.
yeah,
So
but
I don't think he's just gonna go walk off and then just die. That
Rick has
doesn't
had a
seem
greater emotional downfall than Carl or than Glenn ever did.
true.
Rick's
But at
been
the same time, that doesn't really constitute death.
It could if
It
it goes
could, but
extreme enough. Because Rick's been picked apart by Lori dying. Rick's been picked apart by when Carl was like rebelling a little bit back in like the farm or even before the farm. He's been picked apart by Michonne. He's been picked apart with the Carol developments. There's been a lot of times where you've
wait,
seen
what
kind of
Carol
like
developments with Rick? What are you talking about?
when they had to kick Carol out of the group because she was like teaching the little girls like how to kill, and he wasn't okay with that, or she killed someone, and I don't know. Do you not
Oh,
remember
that
that?
got her kicked out of the group.
Yeah, when she got kicked out for a while and then like came back because she like saved the group like she always does.
Yeah, she did do that. But yeah, I remember like she killed Lizzie because Lizzie killed her sister.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah, but you kind of saw a bit of an emotional opening with Rick in whenever that was brought up. So like you've seen a lot of emotional openings with him, and it would be great if the final emotional opening was his true downfall and it opened up a whole new world of Carl, who I hate as a character right now, but I think if he were to get his own like leadership, I think he'd be a much better character. I think the show can totally be saved, but it won't because the show writers have gotten bored. So, it's either
I
A,
mean, you
do
could
that,
probably
or
throw
B,
this at
wrap the
Robert
show up.
Kirkman.
Yeah. It's either A, do what
You
I
could throw this at Robert
suggest.
Kirkman as an idea. I mean, he might not think that's such a bad idea.
Yeah. Robert
It's his
Kirkman,
thing.
if you're
Was like,
listening,
hey, here's an idea. See what you think.
if you're listening, and also Rockstar from there last week, and also Ken Bone from all the great things I've said. We have a really famous audience. Rockstar's listening to my name suggestions. Ken Bone's listening to my applause of him. Now you got Robert Kirkman listening to my wonderful plotline ideas. That's great.
So, I
It's
mean,
great
it's
that we're
not a
getting
bad
that.
idea, man.
It isn't, and neither is Red Dead, whatever I said, or hey, that rhymed, or how wonderful Ken Bone is. I have great
Ken
things. I
Bone's
say
amazing.
wonderful things on this show. I have great opinions. I really am amazing.
Pride goeth before a fall.
Yeah. Speaking of fall, Wow, that was actually a really good segue, but I was impulsively going to make a joke about that's what season it is. But no, that is a good segue because now we're moving on to the fall of football.
The fall of football.
The fall of football. And that was last Sunday night. Or Sunday night, a few days ago. The most recent Sunday's night. With
That one, yeah.
the world's greatest football game ever witnessed between the Arizona Cardinals and the Seattle Seahawks. Chris, I don't know. Have I talked to you about the game? I think I mentioned to you what happened.
Only vaguely.
Yeah, because I gave you the rundown of what the game was. So the Cardinals look really good this year. I know you don't follow football a whole lot, but the Cardinals do look really good. Carson Palmer's playing okay. He's their quarterback. David Johnson, their running back, is like the best back in the league, almost objectively. He's just been tearing it up. And the Seahawks, they don't look as great, but, you know, I mean, Russell Wilson's always been great in prime time, so there's always hope for that. So you expected this really great night game. It's two division rivals. It's two exciting offenses, kind of. One exciting offense and then whatever Russell Wilson can muster. But what we got instead was a game that for most of the game, up until about 5 minutes left in the fourth quarter, was 3-0.
Yeah.
3-0. Wonderful, high scoring. And it wasn't even like the defenses were really performing very well. There were no turnovers. There might have been one turnover. But I know the Seahawks specifically punted on their first, 6 or 7 drives. Now, what kind of football is that? It's like watching a no-hitter in baseball, but you have no one to root for. You can't go, oh man, I really hope this pitcher pulls a no-hitter. What are you rooting for? I really hope this punter breaks the record for most punts in a game. No, that's not exciting at all. And sure enough, with 5 minutes left or 4 minutes left in the game, Seahawks tie it up with their own field goal, and we go into overtime at 3-3. So we get even more exciting football action to watch. And in overtime, because of the new overtime rules, the Cardinals kick the field goal, but then the Seahawks get a possession because it's no longer first score wins the game in overtime. It's first touchdown wins the game, but if the first team kicks a field goal, the other team gets a chance to kick their own field goal or score a touchdown back. And so, of course, both teams kick field goals, so we get even more overtime at a 6-6 game. And to wrap up in the best way possible, both kickers missed field goals of under 30 yards, which in football is a chip shot. It's a make 90% of the time field goal. I don't know the exact distance because they just recently pushed it back, but both were about the distance of an extra point.
Wow.
I think the Cardinals kicker missed one even closer than an extra point. It was 24 yards, which is nothing. They were on the 5-yard line when he kicked it. And sure enough, because of both of those, game ends in a tie, 6-6. So all these fans ready for a divisional rivalry, primetime, Sunday night football action game, and they get the world's most boring game where there were 0 turnovers and 2 field goals, and then also 2 missed field goals of under 30 yards.
That's amazing. That's amazing how two good teams, I won't say great, but good teams can just have, okay, every team has that one game at least where everything just goes wrong.
Yeah, all 7 of the Browns games.
Yeah, pretty much. Now, this one just happened to, both of these teams had that one night on the same night.
In prime time. Yeah.
In prime time.
It's just, it really makes you take this whole season of football into perspective. Because it's just been, it's been strange. The Cowboys are good. Why? I think both their quarterback and starting running back are both rookies.
Really?
Or at least early. I don't know I think Dak Prescott's a rookie. He might be second year. but Zeke Elliott's a rookie. And they're
who?
like Ezekiel Elliott. He played for Ohio State. Yeah.
Me not knowing
anything. He was like really good. He was Ohio State's running back, and now it's his first season. So yeah, they're like the best team in football, or one of the best teams in terms of record.
Wow.
So football makes no sense this year. On top of that, I looked back on it. I lost my fantasy game that week by 1 point, and if the Seahawks kicker hits his 28-yard field goal, my opponent had the Cardinals defense. And if he hits that field goal, the Cardinals defense loses 2 points. So if he hits a 28-yard field goal, I win the game. But here I am, 5-2, because of stupid 28-yard field goal.
Terrible.
I saw a statistic that somebody made before the game about the election that said Hillary Clinton was like pretty much a lock to win in most polls. However, there was a chance for Trump to still win, and the final sentence was something like, the odds of Hillary Clinton losing this election is about the odds of an NFL kicker missing a 28-yard field goal. And then it happened twice within a half hour of each other.
Ladies and gentlemen, we're screwed.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome President Donald Trump. Yeah. 2016. It's been a year.
It's been quite a year.
That's what the history books are going to say. There's going to be like all the years, and it's going to say 2016. It was a year. And that's it.
It's like, I can see it now. 2016, quite a year.
Yeah.
We don't talk about it.
Yeah. It's like all of World War II in German schools.
It's like, we don't talk about it.
Nothing happened in that time span. What happened in those years?
No, nothing.
Nothing of value. Nothing to put in a book, that's for sure.
No.
You're going to be like, what happened in 2016? Oh, we skipped that year. We skipped
Things
We
happened.
just fast forwarded it. Everyone slept for 365 days.
Yeah.
366. This was a leap year.
It is a leap year.
It was a leap year. So 366 days. We had a 366-day hibernation. That's it. Nothing happened.
We napped.
Yeah.
It was a really long power nap.
Yeah. And
I don't
also
feel rejuvenated.
Yeah, it just made us feel worse. We're just really post-nap groggy for the next, 5 years.
Yeah, we are.
Yeah. But in other sports news, Game 2 of the World Series was last night between the haven't won in 70 years Cleveland Indians and the haven't won in 108 years Chicago Cubs.
And the Cubs won.
Yeah, Cubs won pretty handily. It was 5-1.
It was.
On one hand, you're scared because we dropped the game in Cleveland. On the other hand, I'd like to see anyone step up and beat Jake Arrieta, the Cubs pitcher from last night. Go ahead.
And I'm
try
just
and
over
beat
here
him.
I don't know sports.
You're not going to beat him. He's the best pitcher to pitch ever. Not really, but he's been so good this year. I didn't expect to win. So with basketball, you saw that as a good example in last year's final. Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Never forget. But if you lose at home in basketball, you're pretty screwed because there's a big difference between a home game and an away game in basketball. But in baseball, you have a rotation of pitchers. And so if you lose in an away game or in a home game, it doesn't really have as big of a tell because you could have just had one of your worst pitchers. You should be scared if you lose with your number one pitcher on the hill. And I think that's who Jake Arrieta is for the Cubs. So the fact that they won with him is not really as bad as it looks, especially when comparing it to basketball. And especially when the Warriors blew a 3-1 lead in the NBA Finals. Anything can happen. Have hope, Cleveland fans. Yeah. Also remember, if the Cleveland Indians happen to lose this World Series, we lost it to the most deserving team to ever win a title. Because, gosh, Cubs fans need it just as much as we do.
So, yeah, they really do.
As much as you hate the 70-year drought, we had basketball this year. And while the Chicago's had some years where Chicago teams have done well, No, I almost said something stupid. Never mind. But Chicago sports, they had all of Michael Jordan in basketball, so I guess that's fair for them. But 108 years, 108 years. Come on, we both deserve it. I'm happy to whoever wins, especially if it's the Indians.
And I mean, to be fair, at least the Indians got there. They may not have won, but they got to the World Series. That's still something.
Yeah, both teams should be super proud and super excited for their cities.
Absolutely.
I saw a thing where Dwayne Wade and LeBron both made bets on the World Series with each other because LeBron plays in Cleveland and D-Wade plays in Chicago now. And they were like, all right. They were bragging about their teams. They're like, oh man, my home team's so much better. And they were going back and forth. And then someone pointed out that LeBron's a Yankees fan and D-Wade's a White Sox fan. So that they're really not rooting for.
How about you shut up?
Yeah, it's not like this is my favorite team winning. This is the city that's paying me.
Yeah, pretty much. That's what it is.
Yeah, that's why we're cheering. But hey, good on them.
You know,
Um,
at least they have like the integrity to root for the team that their city represents.
yeah, it's always nice to see some city pride from your big athletes.
Cleveland rocks.
Yeah,
Drew
that song
Carey,
will never
stop it.
leave my head.
Never.
Um, okay, let's move on to music. Our transitions have really just gotten worse the more I think about it. Let's briefly cover. You said you had a music suggestion. What would that be?
Yeah, I have one music suggestion to make up for my lack of any music suggestions from the last episode. I This is the funny part. I actually found this band maybe 20 minutes after we ended that episode. Now, the
Nice.
band was formed in 1994. It is a ska punk band with influences in reggae and Spanish music. The band is called Authority Zero. I highly recommend checking out any one of their songs, but if you want to start good, start with Over Seasons and Big Bad World.
Huh. That's pretty
It's a good
cool.
choice.
That sounds like a good mixture of music.
It's weird because like when I heard the Spanish guitar kind of kick in, I'm like, that's unexpected, and it's really good.
Yeah,
Like that hit me with a curveball. But at the same time, I was just like, I was encapsulized, if that's the word that I'm thinking of.
that's a good word.
It's good enough. And it was crazy because like, where have these guys been my entire life? Oh my god. Speaking of which, since we're on the topic of music, I'd like to endorse one thing to any nearby listeners that we may or may not have. I don't know. But tomorrow night, Friday, October 28th, there is going to be a show at the Wickyards in downtown Youngstown, right next to Youngstown State University. The cost is free, and you can dress up if you want. Just don't dress up as a clown because obvious reasons.
That's pretty fair.
Because you can't do that, and they will actually tell you to leave. So don't do that. Dress up as anything else, and you're fine.
So is it? It's a music show, I would assume.
Yeah, it's going to be local bands playing. Unfortunately, the one I really wanted to play canceled last minute due to family issues. But
Ah,
the ones that are playing right now, as far as I know, there's going to be Flip Switch, Where's Winona Now, and Some Punk. Okay. Now, the guy was asking for a fourth band, but I don't know if he found one yet.
huh. That's kind of
But
interesting.
out of those three, Flip Switch, Flip Switch.
Huh. Yeah, I'm not super knowledgeable on Youngstown's local bands, and I also won't be in Youngstown, unfortunately. For
Oh,
that,
you
I
suck.
miss out on so many things. There's so many concerts that I've wanted to go to, but they're either in Youngstown or when they're in Kent, they're on like Thursday nights, and I'm only busy on Thursday nights. Like that is literally the only day out of the week where I have stuff to do, which is why the podcast is being filmed when it is because I have stuff to do. But yeah, a best example of that, which segues perfectly into something I'm gonna hype up for 2 seconds, uh,
Yeah.
is the band Alteris and their wonderful drummer Seth Donches, who we're gonna have on the show next week for a wonderful interview. He's a great guy, good friend of both mine and Chris's. Right? You know him.
I mean, I know him. I
Well, you
saw
know him.
one of their shows,
Yeah, he's a great
and
friend
I
of
know
mine,
the singer's girlfriend.
childhood friend. We go, me and him go way back. So we're gonna have him on the show next week. But yeah, they're actually playing a show in Kent, um, next Thursday or 2 Thursdays from now. No,
Two
it's next
Thursdays
Thursday.
from now. I'm gonna
It's
see
I think
if
it's
I
a
can
week
get
from
the day
today.
off so I can go to that show.
Yeah, and it's like I would love to go because it's very close to where I am. However, it's at like 7 o'clock or 8. I think doors open at 6, and I leave at 8, or I have to be somewhere by 8. So it's like, what a shame that every time they've been in Kent, they were in Kent like 2 months ago or last month too, but it was also on a Thursday night, and I'm like really upset because I've yet to see them live. Um, Even though I'm a pretty big
Really,
fan of their music. Yeah, I hear they're incredible live.
dude, let me tell you. Okay, like I said, I've only seen them live one time, and I was like so used to these Wickyard shows that I just advertised. Those shows are pretty good. The sound is like really gritty and grungy though. But I mean, I like that kind of thing. But
Yeah.
the thing with Alteris and like the bands who played at Cedars that one night, I don't know, like a couple weeks ago, their sound was like very clean cut. It sounded a lot better. and their stage hype was phenomenal.
Yeah, I've heard amazing things about how hyped those guys get. Like,
Phenomenal.
which is weird to me because, like I said, me and Seth go way back, and Seth is like the most contained person I've like met in my life. Um,
And see, here's the thing. I don't remember the drumming very well. I was kind of watching one of the guitar players and the vocalist just kind of jump around the stage a lot.
yeah, well, as a drummer, you can't really jump, but from pictures I've seen from concerts and short videos, he gets pretty rowdy, which is hilarious. A lot of people, and I don't mean a lot of people, I mean me, but I say a lot of people to make myself sound better. But I see a lot of similarities with me and him, where we both, I've been a drummer for about 10 years? No, 6 years?
Maybe, I
Seven to
don't know.
8 years. 7 to 8 years. I don't know how long he's been
Okay.
drumming. Probably similar, probably longer. But we're both drummers, and we're both like really kind of contained and relatively soft spoken, but like super caring about everybody. You may not get that from this podcast, but I care about people. I love people.
You sound
Um,
like Tim McElrath.
However, I am really like I'm taller and not stocky, lanky. Like I'm really skinny
Yeah,
for my
you're
height.
not stocky.
Yeah, and he's like
I'm
short and
stocky.
stacked, and like we look like complete physical opposites, even though like on underneath we're relatively similar. I'd say he's a little cooler than I am. If you're listening, Seth, I love you. Kidding. But yeah, so that's
If you're
next week.
listening, Alteris, I love you.
Yeah, big fan. Uh, I'm not. I'm not even super into metal. I know you're into metal. I'm not.
Not as much anymore, actually.
Oh, well, I know you were into
Especially with
metal
this
and
like
punk
with this
and
new wave of this metal that's coming out. I'm not a fan of it because it took away what I know as metal. You know what I mean?
yeah, I get
And it's
that.
really weird.
But I know they fit your genre a lot closer than they hit mine. But
Yeah.
I still really do enjoy their music. Like I listen to them as like support to a friend, where I was like, oh, it's my friend's band. I want to listen to them. But the
Yeah.
more I listened, the more I was like, no, this is actually just really good music, and I actually really
It
enjoy it.
is.
Um, their debut album, Grief, which we'll talk about again more next week, out on iTunes and probably Spotify and all that stuff. So if you're
I
into
don't know if it's out
music,
on Spotify. If it is, I'm getting it.
it is. I've seen tweets from Seth about it. Yeah, listen to them and then be prepared for our interview with them next week.
Yeah.
Uh, it should be a good time. But yeah, I think we can call it here. I think we had one more thing that we were going to talk about. We could probably push it back to next week
We'll save it for next
so
time.
that
Keep
we
you in
can,
suspense.
yeah, cut off at the hour mark here. Um,
Yeah.
so that'll wrap it up for us. If you missed out on all of our wonderful gaming opinions that we're very short on when we actually do talk about it, but
Yeah.
if you really wanted to hear about our gaming opinions, I guess tune in next week where we'll talk about more gaming opinions. And tune in
Because
next
we
week
will.
for all of our wonderful things that we'll be talking about.
And
We're
remember,
cutting
we'll be
down.
talking about those gaming opinions with Seth.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know how long Seth can be here. We might.
I don't know.
He might not do an entire episode. The thing we might just pop him in for like the music segment and just do quick interview. But we'll see how his schedule fits. I know he's going on tour at the end of next week, so that's why we're
All
doing
right.
this next week. I believe that'll either be Tuesday or Wednesday, so be on
Okay.
the lookout for that. Yeah, if you liked us, remember we're no longer going to be posting to SoundCloud. I talked about this on Twitter a little bit because of an upload error, or not error, but issue. We can no longer do SoundCloud. So we will
We
be
need
moving
money
over.
for it.
Yeah, it's not even that we need money. I could put the money down if I wanted to, but it's not worth it.
But nah.
It's kind of lame.
Nah.
So we'll be moving officially to strictly YouTube for the time being. I'm gonna look into getting it back up on iTunes at least, but we'll no longer be uploading to SoundCloud. So if you follow us on SoundCloud, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is just That Seems Unfortunate Podcast. Follow me on Twitter at Stevie3V. That's STEVIE, the number 3V. And I guess I'm gonna throw a quick shout out to my my live stream because I've recently gotten back into that and it's been a ton of fun. So you can watch me play some video games live. I play mostly Hearthstone, but I can play anything, and that's
I play mostly Hearthstone.
twitch.tv /TheEveryman because I'm using that account because it has more followers and I don't feel like switching over to the Stevie3B account. So yeah, I stream a few times a week on that. Good times. You can come hang out with me. Chris,
And
you
remind me
don't
to
have it.
make a Twitter.
Yeah, you don't have a Twitter yet. But do you have any social media shoutouts before we go? I guess not, because you didn't hear that. But that was the sound of him disconnecting from from the Discord. So I guess that's it for us. On behalf of Chris Vittorio, I'm Steven Bradstein. Thanks for listening. We'll see you guys next week. That was a weird time for his internet to die.